As most of you know, the NBA draft lottery was just under a week ago, and man, did it come with some surprises. As expected, teams fell and teams rose, and the lottery selections have summed up that this NBA draft will not only be one of the most interesting ones in history based on the prospects available, but also with the order that's being selected. So to keep the intro short and sweet in today's video, we'll be discussing the 2023 draft lottery winners, losers, players whose stock has risen and dropped because of the lottery, and important questions that have come up. If you're interested in exclusive on-sale deals up for NBA gear up to 60% off, check the link in my description or pinned comment. Your support would mean the world to me and help my channel grow. Please drop a comment if you have any video suggestions or requests, and I'll be sure to add them to the list. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. It's the best way to support this channel and stay up to date with great basketball content like this. Additionally, remember to like the video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts on what you think about the draft lottery or anything I talked about in this video. With that being said, let's dive straight into the video. We have to start off with winners of this draft, and the obvious number one winner in this draft is the San Antonio Spurs. There were a number of different ways in which this lottery could have gone, but the Spurs landed arguably the most valuable number one pick in NBA history, whose spoiler alert is the number one pick for the next mock draft. This is a game changer for the Spurs, as they're one of very few teams in the NBA lacking a true superstar, and Wemby is not only a generational talent, but has a clear fit with the Spurs. I've been saying for months, I don't think there's another team that could possibly be a better fit for Victor to end up with than the Spurs, due to the fact they have decades of experience in working with the best bigs and wings in the game like David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Kawhi Leonard. So for Victor to be in a space like that, with a nice young roster and solid players, is great for him. Another winner in this lottery is the Portland Trail Blazers, who moved up and landed the third pick, while having the fifth best odds. Although it's always good to get a higher pick in this draft, this does put Portland in a sticky situation, and we will get to that later in this video. But basically, they'll have to defer to whoever the Charlotte Hornets take between Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, and both of those guys have massive potential. Damian Lillard has already stated multiple times he doesn't want to be on a roster with young players, but if the pick is traded, then this might be the start of a completely new Trailblazers roster. The last winner in this draft is the Dallas Mavericks, who basically gave up the end of their season to ensure they could keep a top 10 protected pick, and they landed right on thin ice, getting the 10th pick. Of course, with winners comes losers, and by far the biggest loser in this lottery was the Detroit Pistons. It's crazy to think about how both this year and last year, Detroit essentially were the favorites to land the first pick, but they ended up with the fifth pick in both drafts. Just the potential trio of Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, and Paolo Banchero would have been absolutely insane to think about. That aside though, the Pistons clearly threw away their entire season and tanked to the fullest, shutting down Cade Cunningham after just 1 month in the season, and giving heavy minutes to most of their young players. With this draft being headlined by three main guys, it really hurts for the Pistons, who will miss out on three potential superstars, but will still land a solid player at 5. Another loser is the Houston Rockets, who more or less also threw away their season, and really struggled to stay competitive even if they wanted to. Wemby, Scoot, or Miller would have been great additions for the Rockets, especially under new head coach Ime Udoka, who made the NBA Finals in his lone year as a head coach. But with that being said, there are still some viable options with the fourth pick, like potentially Amen Thompson from Overtime Elite, who fills the main hole at point guard for them. Standing at 6'7" with elite defensive ability, he can make a huge impact for them. This pick is anything but a done deal, as the intel is indicating that the Rockets will look very closely between both Thompson twins, Jarris Walker, Cam Whitmore, and Anthony Black, assuming the top 3 prospects are off the board. Another loser is the Chicago Bulls, who lost out on their pick to the Orlando Magic. Although chances were extremely slim for them to keep their pick and have it in the top 4, it still stings for a team who's in no man's land right now. But there are rumors circulating that the Chicago Bulls will look to trade up to the 3rd pick. Now, with winners and losers aside, the biggest question of the draft is what's the story with the 2nd and 3rd pick? The Charlotte Hornets have a very important decision to make. Either go with Scoot Henderson, the long-time projected number 2 pick, who dominated as a 17-year-old in the NBA G League, and a guy who dropped 28 points and 9 assists on number 1 pick Victor Wembanyama, or go with Brandon Miller, who broke onto the scene this college basketball season as a 6'10" wing with great length and wingspan, who's an efficient 3-level scorer that seems like a better fit with the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets can't go wrong with either player, but each has their pros and cons. Selecting Scoot potentially creates the most dynamic and fun backcourt in the NBA, as far as transition teams, which would have Charlotte fans ecstatic. But the question is, how would this fit work? Scoot shot just 27% from 3 this past season, and with LaMelo running the show and Scoot's liability to shoot off the catch, that could be a huge question. The same could be said the other way around. With LaMelo off the ball, although he is a better 3-point shooter than Scoot, he isn't a knockdown consistent shooter, which could be a problem. On top of this, both aren't elite defenders, and with Scoot being 6'1", he could be challenged tremendously on the defensive end, despite his athleticism. But besides that, I see Scoot fitting in perfectly with Charlotte's transition game, and he's a guy who I feel has a higher floor than Miller, due to him already proving what he could do at a subpar level in the NBA. With selecting Brandon Miller, you're selecting a guy who fits better with the current roster as a scoring wing, who thrived in a fast-paced offense with Alabama this past season. He provides instant scoring and can be a very efficient scorer for Charlotte, which they have lacked a ton this past season. At times, Miller did show some inconsistent play at the college level and didn't have the best showing during March Madness. With Miller lacking explosion and a quick first step, there are questions on how he will be able to create shots and get to the basket at the NBA level against much more athletic, bigger, and longer defenders. On top of that, he isn't the best defender and is also one of the older draftees in this class, just 1 year younger than LaMelo Ball, who will be 23 in late August. With that being said, these are two of the best draft prospects in the past 5 or so years, so whoever they take, they can't go wrong. Right now, it's really up in the air on who they'll select, and as you started to dive into the intel, different sources are saying different things. I'm gonna reveal who I think they'll take in my next mock draft, which will come out sometime before the end of the month. For the Trailblazers, they'll select whichever player doesn't get taken by the Hornets. If they end up with Brandon Miller, then they could fill out a hole at that forward spot, and could provide the Blazers with instant scoring and a better fit next to Damian Lillard. But if they end up getting Scoot Henderson, then that's where it gets interesting, because Scoot is a big time talent and every team would love the opportunity to get him. However, his fit with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons would be very questionable. Dame has expressed that he wants to play with players that can help him win now, but I believe that if the Blazers get Scoot Henderson, there's a legit possibility they blow this team up completely and rebuild around Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe, who had a lot of promise this year as a rookie. I think this would honestly be in the best interest of both sides, because it's been almost 12 years of the Blazers and Dame trying to get a championship, and the well has run dry at this point. There aren't many moves that they could make that could really turn them into a championship contender, and the Blazers have an opportunity to get a massive haul for Damian Lillard and trade Anthony Simons and get some great compensation for him as well, while having their backcourt of the future in Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. By doing this, Portland could have one of the brightest futures in the NBA. Another option for the Blazers is to trade this pick. This isn't just a rumor though. This scenario has been in heavy consideration, and there are reports that the Chicago Bulls are looking to heavily pursue that draft pick and create a Zach LaVine-centered trade. Another team that will look to trade up is the Orlando Magic. Assuming Brandon Miller is still on the table, or even Scoot Henderson, the Magic will look to package both lottery picks they possess, as well as a guy like Markelle Fultz. The Utah Jazz and Washington Wizards are two teams also expected to make a push for that third pick. Lastly, like every year, we see players whose stock rise and drops due to the order of the mock draft. One player who could see his stock rise a lot is Taylor Hendricks from UCF. In my previous mock draft, I had him slotted at number 10, but I could very well see a possibility that he gets selected between the 6th or 8th pick, not only because of how he performed in the combine, but also because of fits for teams selecting in those spots. Another player whose stock I could see rise a lot is Cam Whitmore from Villanova. I think his selection range is the most volatile, and he could be taken as high as 4th or as low as 9th. The determining factor for him will be his pre-draft workouts, but there is serious traction for Cam to be a top 5 pick come draft night. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go that high. For players whose stock will be affected in the lottery, it has to start with Grady Dick. I originally had it mocked at number 8 to the Orlando Magic, and a huge part of that was the Magic falling to number 8 and the fit between Grady and the Magic. But with Orlando moving up to number 6, I can't see Grady getting selected that high, and I think it's more likely Orlando gets him with the 11th pick. Plus, considering who's drafting in that 6 to 10 range and who could be available, I think it's very likely Grady falls out of the top 10. The same could be said with Nick Smith Jr. Smith was a guy projected to be in the top 3 in the beginning of the season, but he could very well see himself fall out of the lottery completely come draft night, solely based on team fits with top 10 picks and combine performance as well. Overall, this NBA draft lottery was very interesting, and it definitely has the potential to shake up some teams into starting rebuilds or making the playoffs as soon as next season. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end and you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Check out the link in my pinned comment or description for the best way to purchase tickets to your favorite events on StubHub. Additionally, check out the link in the pinned comment or description to access exclusive deals on NBA gear at the Fanatics store, which supports the channel as well. Feel free to leave a comment on your thoughts on the NBA draft lottery this year and anything relating to it. Let's get a great basketball conversation started. I'll see you guys on the next video and have a blessed day. Peace.